For nearly 50 years, Biotics Research has been a trusted leader in the nutritional supplement industry. Known for uncompromising quality and innovative delivery systems, the company continues to advance the field through ongoing research, unique formulations, and rigorous quality control. Family-owned with a rich history, Biotics Research is most proud of the strong partnerships it has built with the healthcare professionals. On Adjusted Reality, we talk about living strong, vibrant, and healthy. And that starts with the environment around us, whether it's practice or at home. Force of Nature Pro makes it easy to protect your whole being and those you serve with an EPA-registered hospital-grade disinfectant that's powerful against germs, yet free from harsh toxic chemicals. It's safe on hands, treatment tables, and everyday surfaces while supporting better indoor air quality. Plus, it reduces single-use plastics and costs up to 80% less than many traditional products. If you're ready to align your life, your practice, your family routine with a cleaner, more sustainable future, go to forceofnatureclean.com for home and forceofnaturepro.com for exclusive business pricing and limited time offers. Healthy space, healthy practice, healthy life with Force of Nature Pro. Welcome to Adjusted Reality, a podcast series trusted by the adjusted and brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we learn from athletes, celebrities, influencers, and healthcare professionals about how to optimize health in a fun, relatable way. Join me, Dr. Sherry McAllister, as we welcome mixed martial artist Jens Pulver. Jens Pulver is a true pioneer of mixed martial arts and a legend in the UFC. Known for his grit, heart, and relentless fighting style, Pulver defended his title against top contenders and paved the way for future generations of fighters. Now, over his career, he competed across multiple organizations worldwide, and in 2023 was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Today, Pulver continues to inspire fans with his stories of resilience, perseverance, and the power of never giving up. Thanks so much, Jens, for being here with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, we love having legends. It's all about legends. In this sport, it's really quite shocking how hard you have to work and the pounding you have to take to be as good as you. So let's start with this. You made history as the first ever UFC Lightweight Champion. First, for our audience who may not be fully aware of UFC, what is the Lightweight Champion and what did that mean to you? What was that moment like for you personally?
Well, I think it goes, we're going to step back a second there. And like I said, I wrestled high school, wrestled through college, and always wanted to do more. There was in my mind, I always wanted to be a world champion. I grew up badly abused in my life. And that was one of those things I always wanted to give my family something to cheer about. And I learned about it when we were in wrestling, when I won my first state title, and to see that smile on my mom's face and people walking up to her and greeting her and, and the high five, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I want to see her smile like this all the time. And so it just kind of propelled into that to where I was in the MMA. And the funny thing was they didn't have the weight class. At one point, there was no rules, no weight class. And, then they dropped it down to they finally had 170 pounds. And I wasn't even 170 pounds. I wrestled at 141, 142 in college and 135 in high school. I was like, all right, and what made me is the godfather of the lightweight division is because I had to go fight at 170 in these two tournaments in the Boston Invitational, and John Peretti was the matchmaker at the time. And I just went out there and showcased my skills, and like, hey, we want to start this weight class. We want to start this 155-pound division. I'm like, and I want to let you. I'm in. Let's go. So that's kind of where I became the godfather of what I call the greatest weight class in the UFC, which is 155 pounds. And so, like I said, that was the journey, but that was me, trying to go out there. And then of course I had my career. I finally got to drop down to 135 and, had my career, but there for a while. Yeah. That's my biggest thing was, that 155-pound division. I created it. And, so that's my, yeah, I
That's your
love that
claim to
part.
fame. You know,
That gives me that legendary stats, which is always weird to like, I'm going to, and it was funny because I just had this conversation. Obviously when we did the Hall of Fame, I'm like, legend. Like I'm looking at my son. I go, your dad's a legend. And he's looking at me, he goes, I know. I go, but I'm not, I go, son, I'm not saying it like, ooh, I'm just thinking, it's weird that's cool that's going to be my name forever. You're a legend. Like
it is. It
pretty cool. I think
really
that's cool,
is. When it comes to your kids and they look up to you like that, knowing that you started something that many only dreamed about, and you were willing to actually get into that ring. I learned a little bit about UFC since I knew you were coming on, and I've only watched a few matches, but I get so much love from UFC people that listen to Adjusted Reality. So I knew I needed to have you, the legend. But one of the things that many people may not be aware of is, the actual sport of UFC it's not been around for that long. No. I mean, that's kind of the interesting part is, like you said, there's not a lot of rules at the beginning. And it was founded in 1993. So it's not like it's, back in the Roman days and everybody. I mean, it has its foundational roots, but what's really impressive is the ability for the athlete to be the best in the world in combat. Because you're mixing so much. It's boxing, it could be Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, karate. When you knew you were going to be in the ring and this sport, like how did this sport, I think this sport picked you. I don't think you picked the sport. I think your background, as you just said, you were wrestling, correct? And then when you finally found like, this is your thing, what do you think really inspired you for this type of athletic adventure?
Well, I think the biggest thing was, like I said, when wrestling ended and I was kind of left with, what do I do now? It's like I had an injury and stuff, I was in college and it just, when I started, people started bringing up MMA and I started seeing wrestlers fighting. Randy Couture, of course, was one of my biggest heroes. Townsend Saunders was another one. Kenny Monday, I know I tried it. And it's like, there's not much, because obviously we did a lot of street fighting, because that whole one-on-one thing never bothered me, because I'm out there wrestling. There's something about being out there one-on-one. And I tell the wrestlers all the time, there's no hiding. It's your heart, your conditioning. The only two things that you can control are out there for everybody to see. And so you learn, I mean, it hits hard, but it's also got like the highest of highs and the wins, the lowest of lows and the losses. You know what I mean? So you learn a lot about yourself. You can't blame it on a quarterback. You can't blame it on a linebacker. You can't blame it on anybody. You know what I mean? It's you. It's what you've done. And that's something I always loved is I always tell people, I'm not on a team trying to be the individual, ripping off my helmet and stand out, look at me. I'm an individual trying to be on a team. And that's the one thing that's made so many people so close, I think, in the fighting world, especially of MMA and the wrestling world. But see, there wasn't that much of a transition. Jiu-jitsu, same thing. You have to start working on, people are now grabbing limbs and squeezing them. People are now grabbing the neck and choking, all the little things that were illegal and getting punched and kicked. And of course, there's 1,000 different things happening. But you start to learn those little nuances of things that are happening. Like, okay, these things that were illegal. Like I still have a hard time, no lie, locking my hands when I was fighting, because in wrestling and collegiate, you couldn't lock hands unless you were going for a pin. Yeah. So I'm always spiraling, and I'm like, I still felt weird locking hands. I didn't have much international, like freestyle stuff to do with it. So I always found that weird. Anyway, but it was definitely what I was made to do this. And
you were. Yeah,
I very much born and bred into, I was raised in violence. And I think to be able to turn it into a professional sport is what helped me. Like I said, wrestling, I just knew that that's how I was going to lift my family and take us to a different level. Again, that smile on my mother's face. And I never wanted her to feel bad. I never wanted her to feel guilty because she married somebody at a young age. They were 18 when I was born. And, and he ended up being a violent, and I never wanted her to blame, I mean, she's never blame yourself. Don't ever, I stayed in that too long. You had no idea you were a youngster. And so I wanted to be a good example for my brothers and my sister. And of course I wanted to be just a smile for my mother. I wanted to I wanted her to know that she was she was the best mother in the world, and I love her to death. And, and then, like I said, fighting this opportunity to create this 155-pound division and pioneer, but it was never going to stop me because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a world champion. And when I started going in there, and I remember my first fight, I hit somebody and they fell. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. And I'm not going to jail, and I'm not getting in trouble. I'm actually getting applauded and people are cheering. And I was like, yep, I'm hooked. This is what I'm going to do.
So first off, we give a shout out to your mom, because I think it's really beautiful that she saw in you a champion. She supported you, and you gave her that ability. As obviously parents do, they always take on the things that happen in a child's life. So I think it's really beautiful. I just want you to know that I really applaud you and giving your mom the shout out there, because it is when you're a younger person having children, you do the best you can, but you're also growing up. That's a beautiful thing. And you didn't let your 155-pound frame stop you from anything. And that's another thing for resilience is when you get into a ring, oftentimes there is this ability to look at yourself and say, am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I fast enough? Am I that person? And you walked in fortified with the past coming into the ring with you, that ability to harness the true you, being able to give what you've got in the ring. And you set up, the best part about it is, the reason why we call you a legend is because you think about where you've been. You set up so many of those people that have gone after you, like Conor McGregor. I mean, these are people that, it just keeps growing. Like your legend grows stronger and better. But let's talk about the skills needed. You walk into the ring, you have a wrestling background, but the boxing skills, the speed and the toughness. And I think that's why you earned your nickname Little Evil, correct?
Yes, 100%. Training, practice.
Training. Yes. So tell me the scrappy underdog persona that the fans connected with, because you brought not just the agility of an athlete, but you brought the persona of a Titan in the ring with you.
Well, I think the biggest thing was I was me. I didn't, I cried. I cried like a baby. I love my mom. I'm a mama's boy, but fighting wise, training. Yeah. Little Evil it's short for Little Evil Bastard. Because when I trained, again, the only thing that you can control going into a fight and event is how hard you prepared, your preparation, your heart and your conditioning. Because anything could happen. One slip, you didn't see, boom, and they're waking you up, or you take a bad shot and boom, you're getting choked or submitted or kicked, or or there's so many things that can happen that don't really define what you've done, but your heart and the willingness to dedicate yourself to that camp and give yourself the best opportunity in the world to be ready. That's where, again, you talk like Dr. Malley and things like that. My neck had to be adjusted. How much we beat ourselves up in the training camp just to get to that one day. There's a calendar, whether you like it or not, there's going to be a date on that calendar, 5 months down the road, 4 months down the road, and you have to be 100% on that day. There are other days where I've sat in practice like, oh my God, I feel so good right now. I wish I was fighting. You know what I mean? But then it's like, nope, it's got to be on that day for that time. And again, that's where I know I'm kind of drifting, but that's, again, like I said, the powers of, like a Dr. Malley and things like that, with keeping my neck in line, my body in line, obviously the deep tissue massages and things like that, the therapy behind it, but getting yourself 100% prepared, heart and conditioning. And I knew every time, that's what gave me the courage to be able to walk out there, and that Titan attitude you were talking about, is I knew I did everything in my power to get ready for this fight. And that's what got me in. I mean, of course, everybody, you're taking a deep breath. That accountability sucks. Accountability is horrifying. People are going to have opinions no matter what. You got knocked out by this, whatever. But what gets you in is you're like, whew, okay. And like I'm telling you, I promise you, you will have this conversation. And I tell my students all the time, you never want to say, boy, I wish I would have ran a little more. I wish I would have studied or trained just a little more. It's like the one thing that gets you through all of that is I did everything in my power, and I can look my coaches dead in the eyes and they can look at me and they know, dude, you're a little evil bastard the entire camp, 100%. But that's what you got to do. Sometimes you need a little attitude. Sometimes you just need, like I said, passion, just everything to get you through those 4 months of just mundane following a calendar and, and trying to stay healthy. Like I said, so it's a lot of people come into play, you know what I'm saying, to get you ready. But when it's time, that's you going out there, just like we did in the wrestling mat, is you going to go out there and show everybody how much you love them, how much you respect them, how much what they did for you. This is my thank you by giving it 100%. No matter what happens in the fight, I did everything in my power to make sure I was ready.
That's
so that would
really,
be that
really good thing.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Getting deep into this and just bringing our listeners along, Jens, is it's not just about your internal desire. You have to be physically ready to go and have all the pieces in place. So for those listening, you mentioned a fellow named Dr. Mitch Malley. Tell me, how did you meet this doctor, and what was the reason that he came along with you on this journey?
Well, one of the things was, I think it was with Robbie Lawler, might have been how it started. One of them, I think it was Robbie. But one of the things I needed was, I'm fast. All right. I'm fast. If you think you're going to adjust this neck, I got a little pain. And I wouldn't. I'm like, no, I can't. No, you ain't getting it. But he would kind of take your mind off it for a second. And right when hey, what is that on your pow? I was like, huh? It's like,
so this ability. Is how did you meet? So this is your chiropractor. How did you meet your chiropractor?
I believe it was through Robbie Lawler or one of the fighters. And they said, hey, you got to, meet Mitch Malley. I knew up because, again, I'm a transplant. I moved from Seattle, Washington, and moved out to Iowa after college. I went to college at Boise State University. I kept my promise to my mother. I graduated college like I promised her I would. And then, see, that was where I jumped a little bit on that story. But then I had already gotten into my first UFC fight. And I was like, man, I really like this. I really want to do this, and so that's what I did. I packed up everything and got on a train for 2.5 days, moved out to Iowa, dropped my 2 duffel bags on the floor and said, I'm ready to be the world champion. And so then I started meeting people from that point. Obviously, I need chiropractic care. I need stretching therapy, massage. We need, hot yoga, just certain things. Like, it's not always just about punching and kicking. This body is taking a beating every single day, and you have to constantly work on it. It's from the pounding on the pavement, not to mention the punches to the head, just everything mentally, physically, and it starts to wear on you. You start getting physical ailments, then it just crushes you mentally. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can only go through so much of it. You just want it to stop and stop hurting. Or my thing was, how about we just never get there and try to get as much preventative as possible.
Very sexy. So that proactive reality is
100%
what I think every adjusted reality listener needs to hear is, you're not going in broken. You're going in full force with a preventative methodology that really helps you be stronger and probably even more balanced and greater speed. Let me ask you this. So you've got the past, you've got the Joe Rogans out there that are really not all keen on chiropractic. Have you heard that? And if so, what's your take on it?
I haven't. I think the biggest thing, again, preventative and things of that nature. I know some people are not, but adjustments are adjustments. I had, my neck, it's the only thing that does help it. I mean, it's been beat up. I've, stiff in the shoulders, things. Again, I use it for, I can try to do as much preventative, and it starts in the very beginning, being as limber as possible, a lot of stretching, being hydrated, having, a good diet plan, staying healthy as far as lifting and training and working out. And then every now and then when it's time, it's like, all right, well, it's just like a maintenance. For me, I'm okay. I know if they say, "Oh, you're releasing the gases and it's like popping your knuckle and it's going to get bigger or something," I don't know. What I mean? All I know is when it starts getting hinged up and I start getting locked up, it starts to kind of spiral down that road. And again, I'm also a fan of the acupuncture, and you know what I mean, and heat, a lot of heat and stretching, which is again as much preventative things that I can do to maintain is my ultimate goal. But when things start to really get, again, things get out, they get knocked out of alignment, things like that, I'm coming in going, all right, I got to get this put back. And one of the things in that process, though, is what happens is the muscles, if you let it sit too long, the muscles start to adjust. So now all of a sudden, when I had a real bad injury one time, and I'll never forget this, he's like, they said, what's the point of me adjusting you right now? Your muscles are just going to pull it right back out of position. So what we need to do is we got to calm these muscles down and work on this first, and then we can adjust it back into place, and then we can fix it. So I started learning about the importance of, right? You know what I mean? You go in and you just get adjusted, pow, and your muscle like, yeah, okay, yank it right back. So again, there's this whole ebb and flow of everything has to kind of work together. So I go back to long story longer, which is I try to do as much preventative. I try to prevent as much injury, the idea of it's just like getting ready to fight. I'm out there training, running, lifting, boxing, punching, everything. So I'm trying to prevent myself from getting beat. I'm trying to make sure that I can block, I can move, build myself up, get confident. And I have to have that machine that's working and it's functioning.
It's so good to hear an athlete, especially of your caliber, because I kind of see the type of athleticism that you have to undergo. It could be fatal. And a lot of people need to recognize, you get into a ring and you're giving your all. Every part of your body is involved, but most athletes don't have to have significant head trauma like this, or, having to really get the type of violent forces coming at them. That's one thing. I think about Formula One drivers and their necks, and then I think about you in boxing and your neck and your head, and how do you protect yourself with the most vital organ you own, which is your brain. And I mean, you're so well versed and so well educated. So getting your degree was, like your mom said, you promised her and you got it. And you're coming back to really learning your body's mechanisms. And doesn't it kind of make common sense to you? Like when someone says, you need to be in full alignment, that is both a figurative and a literal thing. Is if a joint's not working and you have to have the full speed and full range of motion, and if a muscle doesn't want to participate, it's kind of like a marriage. Like that means it's kind of like, in my mind, is if the wife says no and the husband says yes, you've got a problem. And it's the muscle and the bone have to work so effectively together. And if they're not, then you've got the chance of injury. And if it was a marriage, then you got the chance for full discussion of, what, I'm the winner and you're going to be the loser. And no one wins in that situation. It's a marriage of something beautiful, because you can't have bones floating aimlessly without the muscles being able to redirect the forces that you undertake. Was there a moment when you walked into the ring, you saw your opponent, and you mentally said, wow, this is a contender? And if so, who was it?
Well, obviously I've had, fighting BJ Penn for the first time, defending my world title. That was a big one because he exploded onto the scene, and that was kind of one of the things when they talk about sometimes when you create a weight class and then you win the first world title, people don't really think of you as like, you're not really considered, like, how could you be the best? What kind of people did you have to defend it against when it's a brand new weight class? But then you look at the fighters that I did have to fight, and that's where they're like, okay, never mind. He's 100%. He's a legit world champion. The guys that he beat, Uno over in Japan, winning and beating Rumina Sato and things like that, and then coming here and fighting with me, Dennis Hallman, who had choked out Matt Hughes twice in under 20 seconds, both times. And then, of course, BJ Penn, who exploded on the scene, who was Moondai world champion. Everybody knows BJ Penn now, but back then he destroyed everybody. In fact, the only guy to beat me, which I was going to get back to when we were talking about that injury, I lost to Dean Thomas, and he got me in an inside heel hook. And what he did is he turned the foot and it popped. And I had to tap. It was like, oh, it was the worst thing. But what I did do is I didn't get it fixed, and I limped around on that thing for I don't know, like a month. I mean, not even a month, a couple of weeks. I just limped around on this thing, tried to train. And what it did is all of a sudden, one day I started feeling this burn in my sciatic nerve all the way down to my foot. And then the thing started locking up where you don't realize how many times you sit down and stand up. When you lock up, you got to fall over like, oh, and I didn't know what to do. And I had to lay on a bedroll and sit there and try to fix this thing. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst. I've never experienced anything like this. So it was to get back to what you had said a minute ago about harmony and those muscles. Then they started getting so pissed off, that sciatic nerve. And that's when he said, he goes, we got to fix these muscles first, or I'm never getting to the hip, to the problem where that burning, that sciatic nerve, you know what I mean, is the issue. And that's how I got fixed. But at a time, it was horrifying. It was the most painful thing I ever experienced. And that's when I started paying attention more to preventative. You know what I mean? Preventing. And I know I just got completely sidetracked, but I wanted to really talk about that one moment because I was so mad that I lost. I felt like punishing myself. So I just walked around and limped on it and had my foot kind of kinked out to the side. And then one day it just boom and it locked. And it was the most painful thing I ever experienced in my entire life. And the process that it took to get everything to release just so that I could then start adjusting and getting it adjusted to where it started staying in its regular position.
Well said on adjusted reality. You know, Jens, you said something I want to go back on. Mm-hmm. First is the punishment part. I'm going to come back to that one. So we're not going to let that one go. But you just shared something that I think our listeners need to hear, which is you walked around an injury for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And when you know that the body's in pain, you compensate. So what was bad, which was
that's
the ankle.
What happened. I started compensating the other side and it just threw everything off. It was
that's the key. That's the
and
key.
And the pain and the locked up, it was so bad when it would lock up. I'd fall. I'd fall over and I'm like, I had to try to. I said, you don't realize how many times you sit down and stand up in a day when it's the most painful thing that you do. But I knew it. I totally did it to myself. Like, I knew it, you know, but I just kept dealing with it every day, just training and ignoring it and limping with that foot out to the side. And the rest of your body's like, hey, man. And that's when I really started learning about compensating. Your other things are going to start compensating for that injury. And then, pardon my language, but it just goes out of whack. And now you've got a storm of stuff. Good luck.
It's true. But I want to go back because you said something that I think a lot of men tend to do, which is punish themselves.
Yep.
You said, I lost, so I punished myself. I think for those out there that sometimes we do things and we're mad at ourselves, we don't get them checked. But actually what you're doing is not punishing yourself, you're punishing your future. That's really the key. And it's kind of an adjusted reality way of looking at it. Because if you never knew that you could find someone to help you kind of unwind or untwist the punishment that you gave, you'd be at a loss. You'd probably be like some that we know very unfortunate. We have an opioid epidemic still in this country. Let's talk about that, because with punishment comes the mental and the physical. Tell me about that, because you had the past, which really, really drove you resilience wise.
Well, then all of a sudden, here I am with nothing. I didn't know what to do with myself. All of a sudden, I'm retired. You know, I feel incredible. I'm like, oh, I feel insane. Yeah, I know, you're too old. And I went on this losing streak because you're too old. You're too old and you're just going through the motions. You're too old. You can't do this anymore. At 38 years old, I'm too old, you know, 40 years old. I'm like, how do you learn to deal with this? And then where I really started getting scared was, you know, I could never let my son, or I didn't, and then especially my wife, you know, my wife, Kanika, the way I would beat myself up and the things I would say to myself and see, like, I'll get into this whole thing, learn how to be your own best friend is the new thing that I'm doing and speaking. And I want to start going on a college tour. So I have it almost all the way done. But my point is, but learning how to be your own best friend, I was my own worst nightmare. And the negative things I would say to myself, I was punishing myself mentally for losing, punishing myself for not doing it. But then here I am, I'm asking this woman to love me. And yet don't say anything negative, but yet the things I'm saying inside my own head, nobody's putting that in check. If I watched you, if you were to say something like that to my wife or my kids, I would smash. I wouldn't without hesitation. But why is it
I'd be afraid of that?
But I'm just saying, but why is it I can say that to myself? There's nobody there to check me. And I beat myself up mentally really bad. When I had to retire, I just walked away because I needed to avoid. I could not, because I grew up with an alcoholic. That was not an option. I grew up with a drug addict. That was not an option. I seen what that can do, and luckily, my love for my wife and my family. That's the promise. Love for my mother and the promises that I made. But I sat there, and what was even worse was I didn't have the out. I didn't have anything to use to be that excuse. I just beat myself up mentally. And I just thought about it and just the failures and, you start beating yourself down, the failures, you did this, if onlys. And the last thing I ever saw, I remember going back and I think I was 22, might've been 21. And I said, the only thing I don't want to have in this career is regrets.
Good for
I
you.
remember that. And I remember, and all of a sudden, I don't know what brought it back, but I'm like, look at that little dumb talking about myself. I'm like, look at the little dumb guy. He don't know nothing. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, but he's dead on. I never wanted to have any regrets. And that's when I started picking myself up, getting myself back into shape and fixing myself mentally. And it goes back to my entire career, everything I ever learned. You got to learn how to be your own best friend first. And that's the one thing that I'm working on. That's the speech that I've been working on and things like that, is learning how to be your own best friend. It's like everything else that we do. We have to drill, but we say so many negative things to ourselves. We have to stop that. You know what I mean? My perception is all messed up because I would hear something, see something, and boom, I'd snap right back to that violent little son of a bitch that wanted just to smash. And did you say what? You know what I mean? But really it was me. Like, dude, I didn't even say anything. I know, but the way I heard it. So then I had to learn.
What are some of the things that you do now when someone says, you know what, you're too old, you're just too old, you're not worth it. You got.
Well, I do a live stream now, so I have to deal with live comments all the time in MMA. I work for the UFC. I do all their online streaming and stuff like that. So there's nobody there to protect me from the chatters. You know what I mean, so to speak. And that was the one thing I was horrified of there for a long time. Couldn't even be on social media because I wanted addresses. I wanted to find you. You know what I mean? I did. Such
a fighter, born through.
So what I learned, 100%. So what I did learn though from my wife was, she's like, your perception is messed up. And one time, I'll never ever forget this. One time, she and I were talking about something, and I kept going, well, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, right? Like, what are you ignoring me? Why aren't you talking to me? Like, what are you doing? And it overwhelmed it. All of a sudden, a tear dropped out of her. I'm like, why? And I'm like. And she's like, and I go, I'm pressing too much. I'm not cussing. I'm not screaming, but I'm just like, well, so you don't want to like what I'm saying not working? And she goes, here's the deal, Jens. She goes, I'm going to tell you one time, I'm like, what I normally do is I take what people say, the conversation stuff, and then I take it in and I think about it. And then I'll come back with an answer. But see, here's the thing that you're not used to is when I give you my answer, it's final. I went, oh, well, I'm so used to, we just play mental games. My dad was a mental warfare machine. My brothers, people like little kids, we play mental warfare all the time. We hate each other today, love each other tomorrow. No. What I learned was, I'm going to take this in here. And what I say, that's it. I'm like, oh, I like, uh-oh. She's like, I don't do this. I don't know this mental game that you're battling with. I'm not like that. And I will never be like that. So that's what you were talking about, how you get those two opposite forces. And what happens if you pull them into your world? I don't want people to be like, I don't want her to be like me. I hate that. You know what I mean? And then as I'm fighting to be on the side of good, I get, it's the only way I say it is good versus evil, whatever that is. But I'm like, can I go over to that side? Do I belong there? I don't know. So my point is to get back to it all. I just learned that my perception and the way I look at things was off because that's how my dad used to play those mind games and just beat the brakes off me, for things that I don't even know why, but we lived on eggshells. And I started carrying that with me to get back to with my son. And why I had to learn how to do this. Like I could never let my son see me talk to myself that way. I could never let my wife, how could I expect my wife to love me when I'm treating myself like absolute mentally? And that's when it all came back to what I learned throughout my entire career is, they used to ask this question all the time. I almost answered, but they used to ask this question all the time, which is if you could go back any one moment in your career, what would you change? And there for a while, I had this. And I said this in my Hall of Fame speech. Oh, I'd have changed this, change this. But then later, and it goes back to if you can just love who you are right now and start working on who you are right now, and you can start loving this person and becoming your own best friend. I go, you know what? It's funny. I go, I have no regrets. I go, because if any one thing would have changed in my life, I wouldn't be right here, right now, talking to you with this smile on my face and loving everything that I'm doing. And that helped me release a lot, to get back to what we were talking about with my perception and just the way that I dealt with things. That helped me release a lot. So I'm like, okay. So I don't punish myself for the wouldas, the shouldas, and the couldas. You know what I mean? I don't go after any of those things anymore. So that's that mental fixing that I had to do along the way once it was over. But yeah, man, it was not easy in the beginning.
It's not easy to reflect back on the past, which got you to those mental gymnastics that it sounds like your dad put you through. But now you have this beautiful wife and a son that are looking at you and saying, "What's next, Jens?" And I want to first give you ultimate credit, because now you're the coach. You're the person who is bringing forth the legacy that you've earned to more contributions, and you've become a coach on the Ultimate Fighter 5. So let's talk about that, because I think when you expose a new generation of fans to your leadership and your personality, you're changing the world. I love that you'd be willing to go out and tell people, let's be that best friend to ourselves. Because when you're kind to others, it reflects back in the mirror. But when you're kind to yourself, most people will think that's a weakness, but it's actually one of the greatest strengths you can own. Would you agree with that? And
well, yeah, you don't have to be a pompous cheeks just to, you know what I mean? Just to be, but learning how to just say good things to yourself, because you got it. And here was the deal, man. I have to start that thing even every day. If I'm down here in the dumps because I put myself down with one thing after another, you have no chance, because the world's ready to hand you your. There's a lot of people, like I said, and I tell people all the time, this, you want to know what I learned about being famous and being a world champion and being a fighter? Here's what I learned. And this is 100% fact. This is what I learned. Out of 10 people, 4 want to knock the smile off your face for no other reason, and they don't have one. They don't give a why you're smiling. They're having a bad day, and they just want to knock that smile off your face. 4 more out of that 10 give you a high five and a what's up, and then as soon as you turn your back, telling you, talking, going on social media and just trying to make the next person laugh. And then you'll have 2. And I think I'm being very generous when I say 2 that are happy, that are happy for no other reason, and they just see you with a smile on your face. They just want to see you do good. That's what I learned about being, as you know, famous and all that. That's what it taught me. And so that's what's like, well, how do we deal with that, especially at that youngster age, that college level and stuff like that? We're starting to hear more and more about that. A lot of people are spending that time at colleges, but that's that world where you're starting to figure out who you are and developing. But see, that's that scale. And if you start down here, because you are the voice that you're constantly hearing inside your head, and you're down here in the bottom, you have no chance. You have no prayer. You know what I mean? But if you can just keep that thing right there, now they're just bounces, like little scale changes, boom, boom. And you learn how to adjust and step back up, adjust, come right back up. But if you just keep putting yourself down farther and farther and farther, it's horrible. It's a terrible place to be.
I did not pay you to do that advertisement for me. Then you have to adjust. Then you have to adjust. Then you have to adjust. So
I know, it just makes sense.
You're right on tune with me. Now your future's bright, because now you recognize that 2 out of 10 are really for you, with you, and about you.
Yep.
And you're that 2 out of 10 now. You're coaching.
Well, I'm good to myself. And it goes back to the coaching side of things. Is now there's nothing I love more. I'm an assistant coach. I'm a volunteer coach for the PV high school, because my son started wrestling a couple years ago. And
good for you.
I was horrified at first. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, and he started wrestling in junior high, because I never messed with him about fighting or any of this training and stuff like that, because I just like, he loves video games. And I'm good with this, and then so he started wrestling, and I never forget, he had a bad tournament his first year, and he was looking at me, he said, "Are you upset with me?" I'm like, "For what?" He goes, "Because I lost." I'm like, no. I go, "No, not even a little bit." He goes, I go, "Gosh, no." I go, "Not even," and one of the things was I go, "I'll tell you what," I go, "if you'll let me be a part of this, I would love to help you." But I was so worried about might be maybe being too intense as a coach. That's daddy being a
Yep.
so I, being a father and stuff. So I was like, I pulled away from it. Went, I can't. I'm gonna let other people coach him. I go, I can't. I don't want to do that because I don't want what I had with my father.
Sure.
I don't want my son to feel that way. So anyway, he's like, yeah, I would love it. And so he and we started this journey together. I'm learning how to be a coach and I'm learning how to be his coach. And we're, 3 years into it. He missed placing it in Iowa at state by 4 points.
Oh,
And I know. He's been wrestling for 3 years. My man but we had so many great wins and it's been incredible what he's done. And I think he's the most, definitely the most improved wrestler probably in the state because he wasn't even on the spot his freshman year. And then sophomore year, he misses place in the state by 4 points and, had some big wins and stuff, but it's this journey that we're working on. And sometimes that world champion's still in me.
of course.
That I'm like, all right, hey, we got to do this, this, and this. Dad, I go, oh shit. I go, you know what? Video game time. You got great. You're getting straight A's. So I go, all right, you're right. I go, we'll keep it for the room. I go, but I'm not going to be at home constantly. Hey, we can do this, Dad. I go, all right, you know what? I'll just be dad. I'll just be dad right now. And then I'll be coach later. You know what I mean?
Jens, that's a very special balance. And I very much appreciate and respect that you're willing to take on that role, but also being harnessed because it's not easy when you're a world champion to see the whole of giving it all, laying it all down. Yeah. And you have to pull back because it's not your dream. And that's where parents can get into trouble. Yeah.
That's what I told him. I go, hey, I achieved my dream. I go, yeah. I'm going to forever be a legend. And I'm a Hall of Famer. I go, this is your dream. And that's what it was. I go, here's what I will tell you. I'll never say no. If you come up to me and you want to train, I'll never say no. See, my father never said yes, ever. He was too busy for everything. You know what I mean? And half time I couldn't ask him. And same thing with the other kids. I go, I'll never say no, but it's your dream. And yes. I can't be the one that pushes you, but I'll be right there with you. However far you want to stride, how fast you want to go, I'll be right there. You know what I mean? I like
Jens, that's the discipline though. And discipline is something that has to be voluntary. It has to be your choice to be disciplined to enough to say, I am okay with my son not making it a dream to be a world champion, but also you're teaching him the discipline. And Jens, I think the beautiful part is you're bringing in the love, and that cannot be taken away. That love and commitment to your son. And it kind of brings it back full force because you're proactive in your health. You're being really reactive to what he says when he says, Dad, back off. You're like, okay, I got this. Does he get adjusted too? What's the healthcare proactive?
I think we try to, the one thing that we do is, is again, a lot of stretching. And I try to just, as young as he is, he doesn't have any injury. So I'm not messing with it, but I am. A lot of stretching, a lot of warming up, a lot of, just getting there and getting everything back, boom, and try to avoid any kind of, injury in that aspect. I never really messed with him as far as he hasn't said if his neck or anything. So I don't push, Okay. I know now, especially as I get older, everything stiffens up and I'm hurting, and things like that. But, but that's also, if I can avoid the doctors, we don't ever go. He never gets sick. My daughter, they never get sick, or anything like that. So I've kind of just, that the natural, my biggest thing is if you have an injury, then how do we, what do we got to work? I think he hurt his ankle. So that's the biggest thing is now it's like, all right, you rolled your ankle. Now what we have to do is we got to make sure we can't keep it off, which is what I did. No punishing yourself.
No punishing.
So we have to let it injure. I mean, we have to let it heal. We got to let the injury heal. And that's what we're after now is once the swelling goes down. But when he gets a little older, and stuff like that, then that's the one thing I don't know much about with kids getting adjusted. I don't know the lingo. I don't know enough, but I just know that they're a lot more elastic and rubbery. So if I can just keep them stretching and things like that, then, as injury free as I can possibly keep him is kind of my goal at the moment.
Well, Jens, this is an adjusted reality for you is the best of the best is ahead of us, and children do very well, but just getting a checkup to make sure we're all in alignment. But I want to end the segment Yeah, see that's that's why we're here together is I
Yeah.
can learn from you and hopefully with adjusted reality, I can just do a little teeny tweak on your world to say, you
Yeah.
know, my children need to be in alignment too, both mentally and physically. And I want to end with one of the pieces because you've had such a rewarding career and it has been a beautiful path for you and journey. The listeners today, some of them think, oh, you know, getting care for my body may or may not be important enough, or they're beating themselves up. What would you want someone to walk away with in this podcast today, so that their reality is adjusted and they can be their best selves?
That's it. What you say to yourself. You are worth it. You are valuable. You're the most important thing on this planet. You're a machine. I could tell people all the time. I could sit over there and, you can see this souped up. And I tell people all the time about this, about heart and conditioning. You can see this souped up truck just sitting there. It's all beautiful, or whatever your vehicle might be, a Lambo, whatever. And you're in that thing and you're like, oh, this thing is beautiful. And then you go to hit the start and it doesn't start. Why? Because it ain't got no gas. But you see that busted Pinto sitting right next to it, and it's got rust all over it, everything like that. But guess what? It starts and it's got gas. So, you know what I'm saying? So, and guess what you're going to ride home in? That busted ass Pinto. Why? Because it's yours and it works and it's got the gas to be able to do it. So that's why train your tank. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Get
I
in there and
love
do your
that.
conditioning. But the mental side of it is the same thing. You have to build yourself. Again, I'll be out there speaking at the end of the year. I'm going to start learn how to be your own best friend. And especially in this modern world where back in my day, all I had to do was not pick up the phone and I could
Yeah.
get away from everything that happened in school. And I was outside playing. This day and age, they're all curled over. They're all staring at their phone and everything is right in front of you. You can't get away from it. You get overwhelmed. And again, if you're saying negative shit to yourself constantly, that's just waiting to just pile right on top of you. So free yourself up, learn how to be your own best friend. Even if it's every day, it's like everything that we do. It takes 21 days to create a habit. That might be wrong. I don't know. 21 days sounds about right to create a habit. So start now, like in anything that we're doing, in any kind of journey that we're taking. You got to crawl before you can walk, and you start now. Say something nice today when you wake up, and then tomorrow, say it again, and just start learning and treat yourself. Be good to yourself, because otherwise you can't be good to anybody else. You're going to be way too stopped and way too angry.
I love it, Jens. That's the message today, and I can't thank you enough. You're not only a legend for the athletic piece, but you're out there doing it, and action means everything. If you don't take action, you start to become what I consider to be in that stagnant place, which is next to death. And so you're fired up, you're ready to go,
Oh,
you're
I
on
got to do it.
track.
Well, here's what happens. What we do is we sit and spin. And that's the other thing is if you start looking at this list, I've got all these things to do. Now, man, push all that to the side and pull one over and handle
Yes.
it. And then pull another one over and handle it. But if we just sit and spin, where do we go? Down into the shitter, man. Done. So it's all you can do, man. One step. Don't overwhelm yourself, but just one step. Move. All you got to do is just keep moving forward, one spot at a time. You know what I mean? We have a moment, we get knocked back. All right. And then we take a step forward and just keep moving. But if we just sit and spin, down there we go.
Just keep moving, my brother. Thank
It
you
is.
so much for being on
Appreciate you.
Adjusted Reality today. I think you have adjusted a lot of people's reality.
I hope
We
so.
look
I hope
forward
so.
to keeping up with you, watching the moments transfold as you go across the country and start becoming the best friend for the people that are listening. They
I'm
need
looking
to
forward to
hear
it.
this message. So thank you for being
Thank you very much.
proactive.
I
Take care.
appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Well, as always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Adjusted Reality as we spoke to Jen Pulver about his incredible journey as a mixed martial artist, a legend in his own right, but also the beauty of how he took care of his body proactively and when there was a reactive and unfortunate injury. But it also leads back to, can you be your own best friend? Can you do what Jen said? Could you start with once a day for the next 21 days, telling yourself something positive? I think that's a fantastic way to start your day, and it will only build up. And the more you see the brilliance in yourself, the beauty is you'll see the brilliance in others. And that's where we get faith, hope, and love. Faith that we can change the world in less anger, less sadness, less loneliness. Hope that tomorrow is going to bring a better day. And love, which really is how the world works. If we can love each other, it's just a better world altogether. And that, my friends, is why you come to Adjusted Reality. As you know, this podcast was brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. We know life moves pretty fast, and we want you to make sure to never miss an episode. So you can visit f4cp.org/adjusted reality. You can subscribe to our newsletters, and perhaps you're interested in hearing a guest. We knew mixed martial artists were definitely something you wanted to hear from, so we brought on Jens. But listen, you can tell us what would be right for you. We love hearing from you. You can also send your guest recommendations to us on that link. But if you can't get enough Adjusted Reality, well, just keep on coming back and we'll make sure that we get the guests that you love and want to listen to. We're excited to share Adjusted Reality book. It's now available in bookstores and online. So if you're not listening, you could be reading. Make sure you order your copy today as you go to that site, f4cp.org/adjusted reality. You'll be able to order your copy and maybe a copy for the friend you love that you want to impress. So I want to make sure you don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with family and friends, rate and review. And if you're feeling so inspired to learn more about chiropractic, like Jen's talked about Dr. Mitch Malley today, you can find a doctor today by visiting f4cp.org/find a doctor. We appreciate your support. And as always, look forward to checking in with you again soon.